Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Top 10, I got a top 10. Got my motivation high for my top 10. Gotta learn from the wise women and men. All my life, like na 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 na. For my top 10, top 10, na 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 na. This one's for my top 10.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because chances are you are the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more, and you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Russell Brand, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Okay, let's kick it off with rule number 1. Have discipline.
You're going to need discipline, self-discipline. You need to become a disciple. You need to have a vision, something to believe in and aim for. Here's how discipline functions in my life. I meditate first thing in the morning. I pray first thing in the morning. I attend Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I attend support groups for my various and much discussed mental illnesses. And what that does is, like, it's quite good. The thing is with discipline, people miss the point. I don't want to meditate. I don't like meditating. I can't meditate. Good, because you are going to become a person that does. If you already liked it, you wouldn't need it. Or I don't want to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I feel inferior to the people that do it longer than me and are better at it than me, or more athletic or stronger or whatever it is. Good, because you are going to become a person that doesn't feel those things. And the only way to do that is through discipline, which is a kind of faith, I suppose. Discipline is faith in action. You believe that you are going to become a better person if you attend these support groups, work a 12-step program, go to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, meditate twice a day, make sure you are present with your children or your partner or every person that you interact with. Discipline, this is a discipline. If I don't eat this food, discipline, don't be hard on yourself. You can't do it alone. I have so much support. That's why I go to support groups. So people go, yeah, it is hard, isn't it? It's so hard. I parent myself. I parent myself in real time at the old jiu-jitsu. Bloody hell, look at these guys. They're so much more muscly than me and tougher. I'm going to be killed. You are going to be killed. But little Russell, I say to him, I just do this in my head. I'm not mental. I don't out loud go, hello, little Russell. I'm in a jiu-jitsu dojo. I go, it's okay, Russell. We are here to learn. You're not here to impress anybody. You're not here to become a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion. You're simply here to learn. You're not competing against them. You're competing against the person you used to be as you continue to grow, into the man you were intended to be. So just attend this. It's okay. I'll look after you. I treat the little nervous Russell from childhood like he's just a little guy, like, you know, you'll be all right, mate. I'll take care of you. It's going to be okay. I can handle all this stuff. You know, because I can through diplomacy and quietness and charm and acceptance. I've got all sorts of tools and techniques that the little guy that still feels nervous, he just didn't have access to them. Discipline is the route to change. This is how you will alter yourself.
Rule number 2, don't chase pleasure.
Are you suffering from chasing pleasure? Yeah, I used to suffer from that. Pleasure, for me, was my way of connecting with an external world that wasn't painful, distracting myself from an internal world that was painful. And you're supposed to have pleasure, aren't you? You're supposed to be having sex and eating chocolate and taking drugs and buying glorious sparkling trinkets and magnificent bronze crucifixes like a cardinal from a bygone age. But actually, pleasure, I mean, it is a good evolutionary tool to ensure that people have sex and eat food. But for an awakened person, pleasure is very limited in what it can do. If you stay present and aware, you might enjoy eating a strawberry or a lovely bit of cold Cadbury's chocolate out of the fridge. But on another, I've not ate chocolate for so long, you'll recognise that it's transient. Obsessing about sex or anything really that brings about momentary pleasure and distraction, but also gets webbed into feeling good about yourself in abstract ways, that too won't work. Other people's approval. What about when you get say if someone famous retweets one of my videos, I'm like, I've been retweeted by someone famous. Glory be. But on a deeper level, I recognise that I'm someone famous, and I'm normal, essentially, and so they will be too, and that all people are the same. And that sort of idea that all of us are as a result of a sperm that won a little sperm race against millions of others. Well, in a sense, the variation that happens after that is kind of minor, even if you're trapped in some dreadful life of indentured slavery, or you're an opulent, pleasure-covered sultan. What's the difference, really? Just a flash of life. What I'm saying is if you make pleasure your idol, your goal, your focus, you will be living in illusion, because it's transitory, it lacks nutrition, it's nihilistic to believe otherwise. This is why I suppose I'm always going on again about not being atheistic, because I find it hard to underwrite purpose without a sense of ulterior meaning. But I believe in ulterior meaning. Not a dominant sort of sky god, more a luminous, all-encompassing oneness that created all. Again, a little bit like this guy. So don't spend your time, waste your time pursuing pleasure. I've invested in that area in several ways, and on the other side of pleasure is usually pain. You'll note that from your own experience. When you've pursued pleasure too much, pain, that's because there's some system beneath your belatedly evolved egoic systems that knows that pleasure outside of function is pointless. By which I mean, if it wasn't nice to eat sandwiches, no one would ever eat, we'd all die. But if you spend all your time eating sandwiches, it's a bit mental and you feel sick and you don't feel valuable. And if you're happy eating sandwiches all day, and just eat sandwiches all day. Why are you even watching this video? Go and have a sandwich. But deep down, there's something else. There's something more than pleasure.
Rule number 3, get rid of self-pity.
Self-pity is a tough one. It's a complicated one, because it's like you're determined to remain in a negative state. Because this is what happens for me. I go, yeah, but this really bad thing has happened. Someone has rejected me. I didn't get something that I wanted. I lost something I wanted to keep. Well, self-pity ain't going to help that. What do? Ram Dass said we savour our misery like wine. We swill it around like connoisseurs. Self-pity is you hold on to something you don't want. You need the principle of acceptance to be free of self-pity. You need to think, well, that has happened. I've lost that relationship, or I've lost that job, or I've lost that person, or someone has said something to me that I don't like and I don't agree with. Not to say that some of these things may not require responses. I'm not saying people are entitled to abuse, harm, or mistreat you. Merely that self-pity isn't something we can live in for long. We can't stay long in self-pity. It is a self-cannibalizing, sort of metastasizing, am I saying that right? Condition. Self-pity eats you away. Self-pity is a negative erosion. All of these things, like self-compassion, lovely. Self-pity, not good. Self-forgiveness, wonderful. Self-pity, not good. An awareness that because with the self-pity, you're incubating the illusion that you are real, and you are not real. You are not real. I know it's real that you're looking at me. I know it's real that I'm looking at you. What is not real is all the various baggage that between us we bring to this exchange. What does he know? He's the bloke off forgetting Sarah Marshall. I hope they like this video. Between us we create various illusions from our emotions, from our misguided impulses designed to keep us alive as animals. Self-pity is when it's gone too far. Self-pity and despair lead to self-destruction. There ain't nothing positive. It's okay to feel sad. I've lost someone has died. This is sad. It's okay to grieve when we are bereaved of a person, of a relationship, of a time or a place or a feeling or a need. Grief is healing, but self-pity is a sort of identification. Grief is a process. Self-pity is a destination, and self-pity is not a place that we can afford to long abide.
Rule number 4, accept yourself.
Are you suffering from a lack of self-confidence right now? You sat at home or out and about watching your phone, headphones on, or just those little earbuds if you've got them, thinking, yeah, I don't have any self-confidence. People always think that I'm confident because I'm a professional show-off, but I'm actually quite shy in what you might call normal social situations. Because I'm a professional performer and I've been performing since I was 15 and doing stand-up comedy since in my early 20s, and so it's more than half my life constantly showing off. I've developed a series of personae that are quite good, but I would say confidence is the sense that you have enough, are enough on your own and don't require things that you won't be able to get externally, i.e., like say you think, well, I know I do need the support of other people, but I'm happy that I'll get them. I know I do need a job, I'm happy I'll get a job or whatever. You don't feel like that you're constantly at a loss in a position of dis-ease. I can see why people would suffer from a lack of confidence, because I think we live in this highly comparative and combustible culture where, like, you know, say I look at David Beckham, like recently playing for Man United, I think, oh God, he looks good, doesn't he? Maybe I should try and play for Man United. You know what I mean? Like, so if you're constantly comparing yourself to these difficult to achieve external emblems, but really what I've been told again and again is that true confidence, and this does seem to be verifiably true, is when someone embraces and accepts who they are. You know, like I know people who seem confident who have the things that I consider being my own faults or flaws. Like say you're worried about your own weight, well, there are people that are bigger than what is advertised as the standard size that seem to be really, really confident, don't they? Or if you don't think you're good looking enough, or that you don't look good enough naked, or you're not clever enough, there are all manner of people that are what we could regard as deficient or subpar or substandard, and I'm simply using these words to convey to you the idea that there's an imagined standard, we think we fall short of that imagined standard, we judge ourselves, we feel inferior. I suppose lack of confidence is a sort of it must be comparative. It must be comparative. When I think, say, of an obvious example of where I might experience lack of confidence, it's that old nightmare of having to socialise with a group of, say, 12 people that I don't know well around a dinner table. I don't know how that has even caught on as an idea of something to do with time. I can't stand it. Mind you, I don't, drink or take drugs or nothing. If I have to do that, I think, oh no, I've got to sit at that table. What am I going to talk about? So what I reckon goes on in my mind is, one, I hold myself up to a too high a standard of like, oh, you've got to be some dazzling Peter Ustinov, Peter Cook, one of the Peters style wit that's setting the table on a raw with some wonderful anecdote, and I sort of know that won't happen and then feel inferior. Or I want to be in control of the situation. You can't really be in control of many situations. That's what I'm beginning to learn, that there is little control to be had. You could master a discipline. You could become very good at jiu-jitsu, say, and then you would feel confident in that area. Always going to be someone better than you, unless you're extremely bloody good at it. I say that the answers to the feeling of a lack of self-confidence: 1, don't compare yourself to other people. 2, find what it is you enjoy doing, devote and dedicate yourself to it. 3, look at what it is you feel is not good enough about you. Is there anything that can be done to improve it?
Also, if you want to build more confidence, the science says it can take up to 254 days of consecutive action to successfully build a habit. So I've created a free program for you where every day for 254 days, I will send you an unlisted video to your email, absolutely free, to help you build your confidence. The link to join is in the description below.
What I think we have to do is recognise we're in our own lives. We've been ripped off. They're ripping us off left and right.
Rule number 5, observe your ego.
Ego, I'm living in my ego. What is an ego? Well, isn't it? It's a construct, it's a mental construct. I believe myself to be Russell, born in Essex in the mid-70s, particular type of class, particular type of background, particular type of relationship, sexuality, constructs, been post-structural philosophy, as well as in, say, Buddhism. The belief is that these concepts are not totally true. There is, the idea of gender is to a degree a construct. Whilst there are biochemical and biological sexual differences, the social implications of those differences are culturally compounded and evolved, or my belief of being from a certain class is also a construct, same as yours is. We have been programmed, and the ego is the part of that program that we believe in. People that have a healthy ego are able, for example, say Noel Gallagher, out of Oasis, his ego is quite healthy. You can tease him to a point and he will take it, but he'll stand up for himself, I would say, if he felt that you were genuinely attacking him. Not that I've ever been in that position, because he happens to be a person that I love. Other people's egos, sometimes mine's getting better, is there's a type of fragility to it that means it's a little more unstable. Now, returning to my initial point, the ego is to a degree a construct. Is it an expression of an essence? Is there something that is essentially you? Well, some people believe that there is, some people believe that there isn't. I happen to believe that there is. But the construct of the ego is almost like a sort of an amalgamation avatar that you send out into the world on your behalf to deal with your problems. Now, if you don't like that ego or that persona or that identity, why not change it? This can be done through conversion experience, through psychoanalysis. It can be subverted by a different program. Many people believe in many different types of spiritual tools, but I believe, as you know, in the 12-step tools, my book Recovery is about how you can enter into your own consciousness and alter the fundamental codes that make up who you are, which might be primarily built on negative beliefs. I am worthless, I can't trust anyone, I can't be alone. If people knew the real me, they wouldn't love me. That you can get in, attack and alter these beliefs, and therefore after a while alter the outer expression of ego. The best thing is to learn to be able to observe the ego and know that you are not enmeshed in it. So yes, the ego is real in the same way that, anything is real on this plane, as in we don't know the totality of reality. So everything that we receive empirically, i.e. through the senses, whilst it seems and feels real to us, we don't fully know how to contextualize it, because we do not know the full scope of reality, and the ego is but one component of our psychic realm. So form different connections with your unconscious mind through meditation.
Rule number 6, let go of others' opinions of you.
How do you deal with other people's opinions of you? Well, the accepted philosophy in my theocratic background, which is a 12-step program, which I wrote about in my book Recovery, is other people's opinions of you are none of your business. It's very easy to establish an ideal like that, isn't it? Other people's opinions of you are none of your business, and therefore I shouldn't speculate, far less care as to what other people's opinions are. But as social creatures, we have biological imperatives that exhibit psychologically to care about what other people think of us. When we were grooming apes, do we groom up, do we groom down? Do we groom the people with more status than us, or do we groom the people with lower status than us? In chimpanzees, it's interesting to see which kind of relationships are considered more important. If I think someone doesn't like me, I've really start thinking, I wonder why they don't like me. They may, I don't even know if they like me or not at this stage. Why don't they like me? Oh my God, could it be because of this? What I find happens is I am concerned about aspects of myself. So if someone else don't like me, I see that as a kind of verification of a thing I don't like in myself. Say I think, I've not been generous enough, or I'm not spending enough time with my children, or I'm not trying hard enough at work. I look for an external, hook to hang that on. When really, I heard this great metaphor the other day. Here are two great metaphors that will help you with this. One is, trying to sort your life out in the outside world is always an illusion. It's always an inner problem, and the inner problem we must focus on. Now, before you get all into that, but what if you're robbed? What if there's a war? I'll get to that. The first thing is, if you looked in a mirror and you had mud on your face, this is someone I'm working with called Karen, said, it's like trying to get the mud off the mirror when you know the mud's on your face. Or Mooji, the meditation teacher, a spiritual teacher, what do you want to call him? He says, the screen of consciousness is like a cinema screen, and if there's a fire on the cinema screen, you don't expect the screen to burn, or if there's a flood on the cinema screen, the screen will not get wet. Consciousness is a screen upon which phenomena are projected or received. We must stay with consciousness.
Someone like Eckhart Tolle would say, even if we are in prison for the rest of our lives, we are not in prison for the rest of our lives in this moment. In this moment, you are in a room. You can look out of the window. And, I guess that would apply to all sorts of extreme conditions. So the way to handle other people's opinions on you is to let go of trying to control them. Otherwise, you will morph yourself into some horrible hybrid of what you think other people think you should be, and you will lose your connection to the truth of who you are. Let go of other people's opinions on you and do what you know to be right. Don't do what you know to be wrong.
Rule number 7, stay present.
Dealing with difficult people. I've been a difficult people before that people had to deal with. I try not to be that anymore. I try to think my primary purpose when I'm in a working environment is to do my work. My primary purpose when I'm in relationship with another person is to be of service to that person. I forget it all the time. When dealing with other difficult people, it can happen a lot, can't it? It could be someone you intimately love, or it could be someone who's picked you up in an Uber, which happened to me actually quite recently. I had to deal with a difficult person. This is what I did when I spoke to someone very surly with me and impolite. And I did this. I thought, don't make this about yourself. Don't be so low in your opinion of yourself, low on your resources of self-esteem, that if someone treats you negatively, you immediately think, well, this guy's hit upon something. I am an absolute arsehole. No, I think this person lives in their own independent universe, looking at reality through the lens of their consciousness, which I ultimately believe is the same as my own consciousness. I believe ultimately in oneness, but in this moment we are fragmented and bagged up in skin. And in this moment, this person is, and their pathology is none of my business. This person, I sat just like this, where you put your foot like that on, I didn't have my feet up like that, leaning. I had my foot across, I was crossing my legs, but with the foot quite high. I wasn't touching the seat in front of me. Take your foot off of the seat. I'm doing the accent because that was the accent, and racially, at least, this person and I are the same race, so I feel like it might be cool. I just moved my foot and said, "Oh, okay, yeah." Right. Of course, the person has every right to, my foot was touching a bit the door. I felt like what I told myself is this person is not reacting. It's not like I weren't showing disrespect. It wasn't like I was swilling down booze and sticking my feet up. But I felt like, this person must deal with a lot of people in his car. He doesn't really want to drive this car. He feels antagonized and trapped. Don't take this on board. Let it go. I was able to do that. Now, dealing with a difficult person over a period of time, that's much more challenging. If you've got someone that you work with or someone you're in love with that's difficult, you have to work out what is it in you that is being affected by this difficult person. This difficult person, I'm so sorry to tell you this, is a teacher. What am I meant to learn from this? Because in a sense, we should be neutral. When people have to go into treatment for drugs and alcohol, right, I go, just go. What are you worried about? Protecting your misery. Just go into the treatment and stop drinking, stop taking drugs one day at a time. I know it's hard, but you've got no choice. The other option is death and misery. So you've got to do it. It's not even real. It's like a theme park. But when I have to go through something challenging, oh no, I've got to go through this challenging thing. But a difficult person is not real. It's just this external thing. Dear Eckhart, again, he would say, if a situation is difficult, you change it or you leave it. I think he's got some other one as well, which I don't know yet. I'm lower down on the rungs, I'll happily accept. But I would feel like, if someone is difficult, I feel like, oh, this person is affecting me. I sort of do tend to withdraw or shut down. I certainly don't try to get into competition. And when I do get into competition of trying to change a person, trouble happens there. Trouble happens. If a person starts prodding me and pricking me, I have to... The trick is really to stay present enough that I'm finding this relationship difficult right now. What am I going to do? Because I know that the outside world is none of my business. I know it's not my job to make this person how I would have them be. It's not my job to commodify the world and its populace into stuff that I happen to like and find convenient.
Rule number 8, use the self-hate to change.
Do you hate yourself? Bloody hell. It seems so severe, I don't even like saying it out loud, but there have been times in my life, sometimes not that long ago, where I have felt self-hatred. When I break it down, it's not that I hate my essence. It's maybe I hate behaviors or feel like I can't live with myself anymore. Eckhart Tolle used that phrase brilliantly. I can't live with myself anymore, recognizing that that indicates even two people. Self-hatred is like that. I interpret it as a desire to immolate or burn the egoic, individualized, constructed self. I believe that even in negative impulses, there is something positive that can be used. And this is a good example. The self-hatred can be regarded as a kind of awakening to the transition you require of yourself. As if part of you knows there is no future in the person that you've been living as. I can no longer be that man. I've had many times in my life where I've felt I've had to transition between the person I was. An obvious example, person who uses drugs to a person who doesn't use drugs, person who is acting out addictively around sexual behaviors to a person who isn't acting out. Same with obsessing about fame. I'm still subject to it. I still get subject to moments of like, essentially, anytime I think an external thing can make me feel better, I am entering into an illusion. Anytime I start to feel anxious or afraid or confused, I'm entering into an illusion. We have the potential to feel a kind of bliss. I've done some inquiring around this subject, notably in the podcast with David Lynch. He talked about the Maharishi, his mentor and teacher. Forgive the sound of that plane, won't you? He talks about the Maharishi and says that he was in a blissed out state. Many people who talk about their gurus from India talk about a state of bliss being achievable, being achieved. People from the Buddhist tradition, I suppose it seems more of a state of serenity. I've always been drawn to the voluptuousness of Hinduism, the sort of virility and vivacity, the sort of passion and the joy of it. And I feel that if you feel self-hatred, you must learn to acknowledge it as a signal for change. You do not deserve self-hatred. In my tradition, belief system, both of those things sound grand. Forgiveness is a necessity. Forgive people no matter what they have done. We must approach from a position of forgiveness for yourself, not for them. Certainly we must forgive ourselves.
Rule number 9, make different connections.
Feeling unloved? Are you feeling unloved? I don't want you to feel unloved. There's no reason to feel unloved. When have I felt unloved? Probably as a little kid when I was saturated in love. Sometimes in relationships when I've actually really been loved. If you're, well, you know, the first thing is you have to find love for yourself within yourself and a connection to a higher power and a purpose to feel loved. You can't expect a person to fill you up with love like you're a little empty love jug and they're a love cow. Is that what you want? Filling you with love milk? I don't think any of us are after that, are we? If you are, you may want to search another forum for your solutions. Love is, I think, the underlying energy that upon which all phenomena is founded. Let me unpack that a little bit for you. I believe in oneness, absolute oneness through awareness, and the sensation of love is an awareness of unity and togetherness. I can make some sense of this. If I love a pair of shoes in a shop, I want to own them. When I love my little daughter, I want to hold her. When I love West Ham United, I want to feel sort of part of that. If I love it, so whether it's an object or a sense of more abstract love, it's oneness, unity, I believe, is the underlying energy. If you're feeling unloved, what that usually means is you feel you're in a relationship with someone who doesn't love you enough, or you're lonely. If you're in a relationship with someone who doesn't love you enough, then you need to examine the nature of that relationship, possibly have a look at the video on toxic relationships, many of the other times I've talked about toxicity in relationships. If you're lonely, then you have to start to make different connections.
And rule number 10, the last one before a very special bonus clip, is conquer fear.
Living with fear and anxiety. Do you live with fear and anxiety? I do. It's in my stomach there and it surges up like that. feeling of unsettledness. I think, when's this actually going to go? I've spent my entire life pursuing some kind of spiritual peace. I'm continually meditating. I don't drink or take drugs. All of the behaviours in my life that I thought were problematic for me and others, I work diligently to change. What is this feeling within me? Well, I've had to turn to the spiritual masters. That's how desperate I was. And the spiritual masters will tell you that it's an inability to identify entirely with the awareness. You are not your sensations. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness. It's very hard to transition to that, isn't it? It's very hard to let go of that fear. Have you noticed a sort of a kind of phenomenon of migrating fear, like as in the fear migrates? You know, you're really scared, oh God, this thing's going to happen, I'm really worried about it, and then that doesn't happen. Oh yeah, but what about this thing might happen? Or if I get this job, everything will be okay, and then you get the job, oh no, but I'm still worried about that. You know, like the fear itself migrates and looks for new territories within you, or not territories, objects. My point is that it's the same fear. The fear itself drifts around, attaching to different external stimulants. My feeling is, and as I say, this is something that I'm trying to work on myself right now, is that the freedom from that fear might involve the use of these techniques. One, gratitude, being very grateful for what you have, constantly acknowledging that instead of focusing on losing that thing or what you don't have, be grateful for what you have. That may help. Two, looking to identify continually with awareness, with the awareness. This is why we need a meditative and spiritual practice. The challenge I think we have is that we regard spirituality and meditation as some ancillary event that's happening over there, that perhaps we could incorporate into our life as if it's a luxury rather than a necessity.
Now I've got a special bonus clip that I think you're going to enjoy. But before that, it's time for the question of the day. I want to know, what was your single biggest takeaway from this video, and what is your plan of action that you're going to execute this week to make some immediate momentum happen? When you just get motivated and watch a video, you have a 35% chance of following through. That's what the sign says. But when you write down what time, what day, what place you're actually going to execute, when you create the plan, you have a 91% chance of following through. And I want that for you. And when you commit to people publicly, you increase your chances even more of actually doing it. So I want to know what your single biggest takeaway from this video was, and your specific plan of action to actually get the result you're after. Let me know. Put it down in the comments below, because I want to celebrate you.
The awareness is everything. Who is aware of these thoughts? When you're thinking, oh God, oh no, I shouldn't have said that, or oh God, I bet I'll lose this, or I bet I won't get that. It means we have, what Mooji would say is, we've combined with the thoughts. We've combined, we've become wedded and embedded to the thoughts, when the thoughts are something that we must observe. These days, several times a day, like say there was a moment where I was going into a jiu-jitsu class and I had to walk along this little external corridor thing. I'm in Los Angeles, like sort of part sort of a landing, an external landing, and the journey between the toilet and the jiu-jitsu class, I was sort of regarding it as dead time, just like, well, this is meaningless, I'm not doing anything now. And I was just in a sort of a solipsistic amble through sort of meaningless conscious activity, thinking, dredging about in there. And I thought, stop, look around. And I looked and I could see the hills, the green and beautiful hills in the distance, and I could feel the warmth in the air on my face. Eckhart Tolle would say, use your senses to re-engage you with the moment. Feel the feeling of your hand. Even now my hand isn't touching anything, I can feel the sensation that I have a hand. The hand is aware. That is a type of awareness that is not thinking. If you find yourself thinking all of the time, one of the things that you will try is meditation. But then you will say, meditation? I try that meditation. I just sit there thinking. Meditation seems like this at first. You sit down, you close your eyes. Oh, I'm just thinking. I'm just basically just thinking stuff. I'm just thinking, how is this even meditation? They say don't resist the thoughts. Don't have an attitude towards the thoughts. Allow the thoughts to come and go. People often use the metaphor of the flow of ocean waves or a shoreline. The thoughts come, the thoughts recede. How I've started to, through meditation, you start to develop a stronger connection with the witness consciousness, the awareness. So when I am doing something like worrying or I'm afraid, I have a sort of a stronger connection. I suppose it's like, I don't know, we've got a weaker hand, isn't it? Unless you're ambidextrous. If I use the left hand all the time, I've got capacity that I can hold things with the left more. I don't always have to just habitually grip the right. And my bias towards the right will have a muscular component. It will have a neurological component. There'll be neurological pathways that I continually walk around. So the right hand feels like the dominant hand. The constant ambling thinking mind feels like a dominant pattern. But if you learn to witness it more and more, that pattern, whilst it's not immediately going to disappear, its dominance starts to be subsumed. Its dominance starts to cede. So I feel like they're right, these great masters. Focus on your awareness.
If you want to change your life in the next 30 days for free, check out my training right here below. Or if you want 10 more awesome rules from Russell Brand, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy them. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.